welcome back to this series, Human Design. How does it feel? I'm still moving out of my house, so I have this, and my camera is still doing this weird thing that comes in and out. It's fine, we're okay. And today I wanted to talk to you about defined spleen. So if you, just a quick reminder, this is a series about how certain aspects of my human design chart feel like, so that you can have a reference when you have a reading or you do an online reading, kind of to understand more in the practice, how does this actually looks like, because I didn't find that when I got my reading. And so I'm trying to share this with you all so that you can compare and contrast with yourself, and maybe in the future, if you want to come in and talk to me about your different, if you have different aspects or if you experience these things differently, you're more than welcome to do so. So defined spleen is another of these defined centers that, if you read the definition right away, I couldn't fully see how that applies to me. Similar to like last time, just because I have chronic illness, like a difficult emotional landscape, difficult challenges. Some of these defined centers sound awesome, but when I try to see myself, I don't fully know how do I embody these things. But I think I got it. So let's see how that feels like a defined spleen. So, a lot of what it is to have a defined spleen, is to have a very good intuition and instincts. However, if you are suffering from trauma, as I am, I have complex PTSD, then access to your instinct and intuition can be hard, because we usually don't feel safe in your body. So that's really difficult, because I think my instinct, which is wired via my trauma, will give me alerts that I'm in danger when I'm not necessarily in danger. So I think it's important to mention that aspect here, the difficulty of that, and how, if possible, one can actually kind of like enjoy this defined spleen, right? And so I must say that the more I have obviously gone to therapy, done a lot of work on like myself, trying to heal my traumas, my triggers. To some extent, the triggers never go away, but you can like learn how to handle them. The more I'm able to see when my intuition is speaking to me. So I think I have heard this question a lot online, which is, if you're an anxious person, how do you distinguish your anxiety talking and your trauma talking, alerting you of things, and when is it intuition? Because it gets confusing, right? And overall, I will say that an intuitive hit comes with a lot of peace. Even if you're in danger, it's very compassionate, very gentle. Whereas my PTSD hit, or my anxiety hit, it comes with this like storm of emotions that are almost overwhelming, almost kind of cloud my judgment, when intuition is not necessarily that way. And my instinct, it's so that's also another question, right? What is the difference between intuition and instinct? But I think overall, the more you know yourself, your triggers, the more you're gonna be able to discern what is what. So that's what I will say first. So another aspect of this defined spleen that it was sad for me to read, just because I haven't experienced it fully, is to have a very strong immune system and radiate well-being and health. As I just started saying, I have different chronic illnesses, and I have different like disabilities. So I don't feel all the time that I'm healthy and that that I irradiate well-being, or maybe well-being I do because of my spiritual practice, but not necessarily. I'll say, health per se, just because I live with different types of pain. There are a lot of foods that I cannot have. There are certain things that I cannot do. Um, Certain movements I cannot do with my body, etc., etc. So I think the way that, and we will see in the shadow side of this defined center, why is it that I don't irradiate health or have the strongest immune system? Especially because here there's also about something about fear and being able to face fear. And as an anxious person, fear is something that is daily present for me. Like I have so many fears about so many things because my mind, is always going to that scenario. So, um, but what I can say though is that the more I am in tune with what my body needs, the food that serves them well, the people that nurture them, the places that nurture them, when I'm able to rest if I want to, when I'm able to say no when I want to, the more and more I think I can irradiate this well being. And as a matter of fact, and I think I said this before in other episode but of this series, but a number of people have told me that they feel safe around me, that I kind of irradiate some sort of groundness to them. And that's also part of why I tend to be advisor for folks. Like they come to me for advice because they feel safer or grounded. And in a way, the way I experience this aspect is, I think, to have kind of like a healing aura. And so I do think, again, when I'm in my good side, when I'm grounded, when I've done my practice, when I've read my cards of the morning, when I have meditated, etc., um, I think that I can irradiate a presence that can be subtly healing for folks, that feels like warm and fuzzy and nice to be, almost like a little blanket of love. And so I think that's how I experience this aspect of the defined spleen. So in the shadow side, there is some aspects here that I find interesting. One of them is that you can feel, and I certainly not now because of all my pain that I have in my body, but in when I was younger, I definitely felt a sense of invulnerability, that I was invincible. And I think, of course, being young is part of that, but I think especially me, like I have done some reckless things for sure. Kind of like perhaps unconsciously understanding that I had this sort of yeah, strong system or something, and then feeling very depleted or overload, right? So that's something to look at. The second thing is, um, well, when you don't listen to your instinct or your intuition, because maybe you are confusing it with your emotional response, as I was saying, or because you're like so out of alignment that you cannot even hear your own spleen hit, or hint into something. And so I think that's also important because bringing back this idea of when am I having an emotional response versus when I'm having an intuition and an instinct hit on something, right? So that's the other thing of the shadow side. And then the third would be, if you confront fear daily or frequently, maybe that would be a paralyzing force for you. And so I think that is also like this aspect where we have close contact with fear. And what does that do to you? Like if you're able to still do the thing, or if fear paralyzes you, right? And I think I also have share a little bit that I have a really kind of like stage fright situation. But I'm a Leo and I'm a performer. I love performing. And so every time I try to do it, it's like intense fear, borderline panic attack, and I still try to do it. And I think there are other instances as well in my life where I have a lot of fear, just a lot of fear, but trying to, to even with fear, do the things that I need to do. And I think in a way, of course, I'm holding back on a lot of things because of fear, just basically, right? So that's something interesting for you to look at yourself, right? So in the highest expression, it's kind of like a summary of what I have been saying so far. This idea that you radiate well-being, health, security, to others, which I think it's beautiful. I mean, if the more I can do that, I will definitely love that. Um, and then the thing here is that you want to look at your authority, right? So mine is because I'm a generator. Mine is not a splenic authority, which means that I don't necessarily have to act on my defined spleen behavior, or hence I need to wait for my sacral response, right? Same with the if you have an emotional authority. So this is interesting in your highest aspect of this center, to be able to see the intuition coming in, but actually acting only until your authority tells you to do so. That's important to know as well. And then the third one is to feel internal safety and kind of like being secure within yourself, which means that, again, if you have, like me, anxiety, we will have irrational fears and some other actually rational, but maybe not useful, right? And so the highest expression of this center would be to be able to kind of like go past those fears and shine. That's the idea, right? And I think I haven't mentioned it again, but the first episode I said that this is that what I'm sharing is based on a reading that I got from Crystal Alfarero's website. Really recommend her. I put her on my first episode as a source, and I just want to, remind everyone, because it's important for us to you cite our sources, right? That this is, I'm speaking of my experience, but the foundation is the reading that I had from her website. So that's important, and I will put it on the YouTube description again. It's there since the beginning, but I just wanted to make sure that I am crediting her because she's really incredible. All right. I think that's it. It's a short one. That's fine. We can do all lengths. I hope you're doing well. And yeah, I wish you well. Bye.